in a political opposition that was once deeply divided, an opposition that found common ground in the demand for free election and representative government. This is precisely what lies at the heart of democracy, our shared willingness to defend the principles of popular rule, even though we disagree. At a time when democracy is under threat, it is more important than ever to defend this common ground. Venezuela has evolved from a relatively democratic and prosperous country to a brutal and authoritarian state that is now suffering a humanitarian and economic crisis. Most Venezuelans live in deep poverty, even as the few at the top enrich themselves. The violent machinery of the state is directed against its own population. Nearly 8 million people have left the country. The opposition has been systematically suppressed by means of election rigging, legal prosecution, and imprisonment. Venezuela's authoritarian regime makes political work extremely dangerous. As the founder of SUMATE, an organization devoted to democratic development, Ms. Machado stood up for free and fair elections more than 20 years ago. As she said, it was a choice of ballots over bullets. In political office and in her service to organizations since then, Ms. Machado has spoken out for judicial independence, human rights, and popular representation. She has spent years working for the freedom of the Venezuelan people. Ahead of the election of 2024, Ms. Machado was the opposition's presidential candidate, but the regime blocked her candidacy. She then backed the representative of a different party, Edmundo González Urrutia, in the election. Hundreds of thousands of volunteers mobilized across political divides. They were trained as election observers to ensure a transparent and fair election. Despite the risk of harassment, arrest, and torture, citizens across the country held watch over the polling stations. They made sure the final tallies were documented before the regime could destroy ballots and lie about the outcome. The efforts of the collective opposition, both before and during the election, were innovative and brave, peaceful and democratic. The opposition received international support when its leaders publicized the vote counts that had been collected from the country's election districts, showing that the opposition had won by a clear margin. But the regime refused to accept the election result and clung to power. Democracy is a precondition for lasting peace. However, we live in a world where democracy is in retreat, where more and more authoritarian regimes are challenging norms and resorting to violence. The Venezuelan regime's rigid hold on power and its repression of its population are not unique in the world. We see the same trends globally. Rule of law abused by those in control, free media silenced, critics imprisoned, and societies pushed towards authoritarian rule and militarization. In 2024, more elections were held than ever before, but fewer and fewer are free and fair. In its long history, the Norwegian Nobel Committee has honored brave women and men who have stood up to repression, who have carried the hope of freedom in prison cells, on the streets, and in public squares, and who have shown by their actions that peaceful resistance can change the world. In the past year, Ms. Machado has been forced to live in hiding. Despite serious threats against her life, she has remained in the country, a choice that has inspired millions. When authoritarians seize power, it is crucial to recognize courageous defenders of freedom who rise and resist. Democracy depends on people who refuse to stay silent, who dare to step forward despite grave risk, and who remind us that freedom must never be taken for granted, but must always be defended, with words, with courage, and with determination. Maria Corina Machado meets all the three criteria stated in Alfred Nobel's will for the selection of a Peace Prize. She has brought her country's opposition together. She has never wavered in resisting the militarization of Venezuelan society. She has been steadfast in her support for a peaceful transition to democracy. Maria Corina Machado has shown that the tools of democracy are also the tools of peace. She embodies the hope of a different future, one where the fundamental rights of citizens are protected and their voices are heard. In this future, people will finally be free to live in peace. Thank you. Questions?
Mr. Chair, the attention this year has been a bit further north. How are you, as a committee, going to make sure that the topic of this year's Peace Prize, democratic development in Venezuela, is highlighted in the days and weeks to come?
First and foremost, we hope to get your help, because the media obviously plays an important role in highlighting the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela, but first and foremost, the immense and impressive work of the opposition in that country, so that they will still have hope to fight for a freedom, a future of freedom for their country.
Congratulations to Maria Corina Machado and the committee on the decision. But during the past months, U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly said he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize and he'd like to have it. He even said that it would be an insult to the United States if he doesn't get it. What does your, as the chairman of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, think of this, and how has this campaign-like activity by the President and his supporters, domestically and internationally, affected the deliberations and the thinking in the committee?
In the long history of the Nobel Peace Prize, I think this committee has seen any type of campaign, media attention. We receive thousands and thousands of letters every year of people wanting to say what for them leads to peace. This committee sits in a room filled with the portraits of all laureates, and that room is filled with both courage and integrity. So we base only our decision on the work and the will of Alfred Nobel.
Hello, Bibiana Piena from the Norwegian News Agency. As you state in your explanation, more and more countries are moving in a more autocratic direction. Would you say that the committee, by this prize, is sending a warning to the world?
Living in a world where we have less and less democracies and more authoritarian regime means that the world is also getting more unsafe. And we believe that peace, democracy is a precondition for peace. And so, yes, that is the message to the world. We need to support the democratic forces also on behalf of peace. Thank you.
Mieszko Czarnecki, the Polish press agency, PAP. This is the next Nobel Peace Prize in recent years when woman has been awarded. Do you feel that women all over the world and in certain countries play a significant or a certain role protecting democracy, taking into consideration the Iranian activist from 2023 and Venezuelan democracy protector that has been just announced as a laureate? Thank you.
Thank you. As quoted in the announcement texts, in the long history of the prize, brave women and men from around the world have stood up against repression again and again. That is a key element of the Peace Prize, and we've seen it once again, that Corina Machado has been a unifying leader of the opposition in Venezuela, and what they did in the election of 2024 was incredible, and it gives hope to an entire country.
Mr. Chairman, Christopher Ronenberg from Aftenposten. We've seen in previous years that awarding the Peace Prize to dissidents can put their lives at more risk than it already is. You mentioned yourself that she has been in hiding for quite some time. What considerations have you made when it comes to her safety and security now that she has become more exposed because of this Peace Prize?
You're now touching upon some of the absolutely most difficult dilemmas in the work of the committee. This is the discussion we have every year for all candidates, particularly when the person who receives the prize is in fact in hiding because of serious threats to her life. She is very active in Venezuela, has been and will be. And so we are also taking the consideration that this prize will support her cause and not limit it. Thank you.
Do you expect to see her in December in Oslo?
Again, a question of security. It's too early to say. We always hope to have the laureate with us in Oslo, but this is a serious security situation which needs to be handled first. Thank you. Then I'll say thank you so much for your questions. Thank you for coming, and we'll have individual interviews.
Earlier questions from Imogen and John. We heard from Fletcher yesterday that there is contact between OCHA and COGAT. I wanted to know what specifically UNRWA's connection is with COGAT. How frequently are you talking to them? Is there radio silence, or are you actually coordinating with them, specifically UNRWA? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. There's no radio silence from our side, I can assure you. We continue to be in touch with the Israeli authorities at the different levels. We, however, do not get a response back. This has been the case since the Israeli parliament bill came into effect. That was at the end of January this year, where, according to the bill, there's a no contact policy between the Israeli authorities and UNRWA. However, we continued to write and correspond at different levels of the agency with different parts of the government of Israel.
Thank you very much, Juliette. Sorry, Olivia, Reuters.
Thank you again. I just would seek your comment, please, both of you, Ricardo and Juliette, about, I mean, we've heard from one Israeli security source suggesting that around 600 trucks a day could be getting into Gaza. Previously, Juliette, you were mentioning 800 trucks getting in under UNRWA's leadership. So I'm just curious to know what you both make of that figure, and roughly how much would you be expecting and needing to get in? If you could give us a sense of scale of the need, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, let me have a stab on this. So basically what we've been saying across the UN, not just at UNRWA, is that Gaza needs 500 trucks every day. That's been our assessment since the beginning of the war, and that's based on the trucks that used to come into Gaza before the war began. Gaza was under a blockade, as you know, Olivia, for about 17 years and depended very heavily on imports coming from outside. So the average, at the minimum, is 500 trucks. Now, going back to the ceasefire, UNRWA was doing this not alone, the 600, 700 trucks, 800, and I'll explain in a minute. We did it together with the rest of the United Nations family, of course, with WHO, with UNICEF, with WFP, and with other humanitarian agencies. UNRWA played a very big part in that, that's right, but we didn't do it alone. And so on average, what was coming in during the ceasefire was from 400 to 800, and then I ask that we don't fall in the trap of counting trucks and how many trucks, because we've all become sort of truck experts over the past 2 years, and that's not the story. The story is that there's loads of humanitarian needs in the Gaza Strip. To respond to those humanitarian needs, you're going to need the United Nations, including UNRWA. People in Gaza, they've lost everything, they need everything. People have been displaced on average 9 to 10 times a day, including, by the way, our own staff. So there is no question that Gaza needs to be flooded with humanitarian assistance, and that must be done through the United Nations, including UNRWA.
And I see Olivia nodding. Thank you. Christian, sorry. You're on.
Here we go. Yeah, just to do a verbal nodding as well. Let's not forget while we don't want to count the trucks, I fully agree here. The 600 trucks mentioned before many times, they came in peacetime to Gaza. They came into a practically perfectly functioning society apart from the supplies that were needed on a daily basis. Now we have a shattered Gaza, shattered lives, shattered buildings, shattered healthcare. That's why we need to flood the place, as we have all been saying multiple times, with supplies, medical, food, life-saving, fuel, and so on and so forth. So yeah, let's not count the individual trucks. Let's just flood the place.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think this was the last question. I don't see other hands up. So I'd like to thank you all very much. Thanks, Ricardo, Christian, and above all, Juliette, for connecting from Amman to answer the questions of our journalists. Thank you so very much. That brings us to the end of our, for whom? After Gaza, okay. So thank you very much. Since this was our last subject, I give you the floor, Christiane.
Thank you very much. I was hoping that the High Commissioner of Human Rights has a comment on the Nobel Peace Prize going to the Venezuelan lady. Thank you.
I wonder whether, Tamin is connected. Yeah, Tamin, please. Of course, we have, as I'm sure you've seen, the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to Maria Corina Machado for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for a struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. And of course, we congratulate the winner of this year's Nobel Prize. I know we will have a full reaction a bit later, but I mean, maybe you want to already say something on it, please.
Thank you, Alessandra, and thank you, Christiane, for the question. We congratulate Maria consistently spoken out in support of these values. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, are there any other questions for Tamin? Yes, Robin.
Hi, Tamin. Would you be able to give us a broader overview of the rights situation in Venezuela as it stands, to explain a bit more the context in which this award comes? Thank you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can, Tamin. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Well, I think you have been following up on the work that our office has done on Venezuela. We have been reporting on the situation of human rights in Venezuela. We have been seeking to engage with all stakeholders, including, of course, the authorities on different kinds of situations. The Human Rights Council has requested our office to provide regular updates, and our recent report is based on careful documentation following the established methodology, of course. So we reiterate this willingness of our office to engage in good faith with the government of Venezuela and all the stakeholders based on mutual respect. And we remain firmly committed to continue working to defend and protect the human rights of all Venezuelans, whether they are in Venezuela or abroad, and based, of course, on information and with the victims in the center of our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christiane.
Yeah, I wonder whether the question is about more about what is the situation in Venezuela? What is the problem with human rights in Venezuela? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Of course, it would not be very easy to resume the whole situation today in a few lines or in a short answer, but the bottom line here is that we need more engagement with the authorities. As you know, that the National Assembly of Venezuela voted in favor of declaring the High Commissioner persona non grata, and this is something that we have regretted. There are many human rights issues that need to be addressed in Venezuela. We can provide more details if you have any precise questions in this regard, but the bottom line is that our office needs to work and to engage with the authorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me see if there's any question for you on the line. Yes, Jamie.
Hi, Tamim. Thank you so much for coming. Just wanted to find out if your office has been in contact with Ms. Machado recently. Have you had any, connection with her out of human rights concerns? And if so, when was that and where? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I will need to get back to you on that specific point. Of course, our office is in contact with many stakeholders in Venezuela, many Venezuelan stakeholders in the country and abroad. But I will need to get back to you on this specific question about contact with Ms. Machado.
And don't see any other hand up for you, Tamim. Thank you very much. Is that a hand, Robin? No. Okay. Okay, good. So we come to the end of, almost to the end of our briefing. We have spoken at length about the World Mental Health Day, which is today. We've also sent you the message of the Secretary General for the day, International Day of the Girl Child. This is tomorrow, 11th of October. And we also sent you the message for the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, which is on the 13th of October. And as you know, our colleague of the Disaster Risk Reduction Agency here in Geneva are available for questions. Just wanted to remind you the press conference of Mrs. Greenspan. That's going to be at the Secretary General of UNCTAD. That's going to be on Monday, 13 October at 2:30 p.m. in this room. She will be here to brief you on UNCTAD 16, which is coming along, as you know, starting the week after on the 20th of October for 4 days here at the Palais des Nations. And on Thursday, 16th of October at 10 a.m., we will have a press conference by WMO on the WMO Greenhouse Gas Bulletin with Cove Barrett, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the organization, and Oksana Tarasova, WMO Senior Scientific Officer. Speaking about the World Mental Health Day, I just wanted to invite you to a film screening and a panel discussion, which is going to happen this afternoon at 4:30 in room 8 of the Palais des Nations. It's organized by the UNOG Working Group Against Racism, and we will be screening the award-winning documentary Color, directed by Dr. Hannah Strohmeyer. To uncover how colonial legacies and institutional racism impact mental health in humanitarian workplaces. This 64-minute film includes extensive research as well as testimonies of the working staff in Nairobi and call for more inclusive and supportive organizational structure. There will also be a panel discussion, including with messages from Dr. Strohmeyer, after the film screening. Just wanted to remind you that I'm sure you know that the treaty bodies sessions have been cancelled for their third annual session. So we wanted to still tell you about what's coming up on that side. In accordance with Human Rights Council Resolution 5222 adopted on April 2023, the United Nations Forum on Human Rights, Democracy and the Rule of Law will hold its 5th session next Monday and Tuesday, 13 and 14 of October at Tempus here at the Palais. The theme will be Democracy and Climate Change, focusing on solutions. At the opening of this session at 10 a.m. on Monday, the forum should hear opening statement from a series of very distinguished speakers. It's a very long list. I won't read them all, but please have a look on their website. There will be 6 successive panels, 3 per day, devoted to climate change in a rule of law-less context, participation, accountability, and fundamental freedoms on climate justice, the just world. Another one on climate governance. Then they will have legal clarity, democratic defense, and creativity, harmony with nature, interconnected solution for interconnected problems. So we are going to ask you to have a look at their website for more details on the panels and on the speakers. And I think I've told you everything I had on my list. So if there are no other questions, I thank you all very much and wish you a very, very good weekend. And I'll see you on Tuesday. Thank you.